Tom, appreciate it. So good afternoon, everybody. So as Tom said, my name's Henry Lowry. I'm the newer vendor analyst. Been here since October last year. So, this year's been a kind of a whirlwind. I'm definitely still learning alongside of everybody here. So, but we're going to go over some stuff that we've seen over the past year and get everybody ready for the upcoming season. So pretty straightforward, just a little lineup for everybody today. So we're going to have different sections throughout here where you'll be able to ask questions, as well as at the end, we'll kind of have a free-for-all for questions. Tom will be in the chat here. I'll be here to kind of answer however we can. If we can't answer it, then we'll certainly get back to you on it as well. So. Okay, so just, we're just wrapping up the 2023 year, kind of the final numbers coming in. So far we have 122,000 households that have been helped this year, that given assistance this year. Oh, the only one's a voice. Can everybody hear? Are we having issues here? Okay.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, so. Okay, so, over 40,000 crisis households have been assisted, 217 ERR, and 79% of counties had increases over the previous program year. So just some wins, I suppose. Big successes this year. So the next couple slides, we have just some different numbers. I'm not going to go over these too closely. I think, you guys will be able to go back and look into this a little bit more if you want. We're just kind of starting to crack open a lot of this data and learn a lot about it ourselves. And so Dana, who is on the call here, has been really breaking into this information. So we're hoping to really move on this in the coming future. So, but in case you guys want to see it, it's here. So here's just a quick timeline for the upcoming season. So we're looking at October 2nd for program year 24. So coming up really quick here. Okay. So the next couple sections, going to be going over the vendor guide, the MOA, some different changes that are going on, and just kind of some issues or some things we want to bring attention to. So vendor guide, this is going to be your #1 resource as a utility vendor. We keep it updated, I believe, every year. It's always hosted on our partner site, which is on the IHCDA website. I got a link right here for you. And, you're always encouraged to kind of go there first to get an answer, but hey, we're always here to help as well. So it is an MOA year. So I have actually already sent out the first batch of those. They will be taking effect on October 1st, and they're actually going to run for 2 years. And so if you've seen an email, probably from me, and it will be either Adobe or Echo Sign, that's going to be your agreement. So if you have not seen those, please reach out to me at the new vendors email. That's vendors@ihcda.in.gov. We've had some issues just with the technology of it, and so I realize like some of those errors are happening. If you haven't heard from me, please reach out to me and let me know, and then we can get you that copy. So we're hoping to have all these done substantially before the season starts. So that is paramount we get those done. So just a quick note, the ACH authorizations are still going to be required annually. Those will still be, sent through Adobe Sign. And, this is just a way to, keeping it digital is a way to build efficiency and streamline the process as well. So. Okay. So like I said, we just updated this MOA. And so there's going to be a few changes I think we want to bring to your attention. So starting from the top here, we are now requiring all vendors suspend disconnect action for 14 days while the application is being processed. So obviously, there can be no disconnect during the moratorium protection timeframe, but so this is going to be outside of it. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on these later. So vendors are now required to validate, sign, and return transmittals within 7 days. Vendors are now required to use overpayment and refund summary forms while returning funds. We've updated our equal treatment clause to require explicit participation in any investigations into violations. And then we've, throughout the whole document, made several updates to language, making it more logical, concise, and clear. Okay. So some of the more things going on, some more items here in the MOA. If you're a parent company that has other locations, only the parent company needs to complete that MOA and ACH form as long as the W-9 matches for all the locations. And then obviously within the actual MOA, an attachment B, you'll have the list of all of those locations. And we're trying to really reduce the amount of these going out. And so if there's a way that we can help streamline that, please let us know. And in cases where the payment goes to the same bank account, the location should be grouped under that same parent organization. Okay. So Agreement 5, cooperation. By signing the MOA, the vendor agrees to cooperate with IHCDA and the local service provider regarding sharing information about e-applicant accounts. It includes all of these relevant things. And this information is actually federally mandated. And so if we are asking for this, there's a pretty good reason. So we appreciate you guys cooperating. Okay. Performance measures. So collection of performance measures data is mandated by the LIHEAP statute. Every year, we ask several vendors to submit performance measures data. This includes providing an annual energy usage and costs for all customers who have received LIHEAP benefits. And then we can cross-reference this data with our annual income calculations. So generally, the purpose of this measures data is to demonstrate reduction of energy burden and to assist us in crafting our policy. So again, this is all mandated. Acceptance of payment agreement number 10. In accordance with state code, all payments must be made by an electronic funds transfer. If you're a vendor that would like to be paid by check, a couple things need to be proven to us. So you have to prove that you do not and are unable to establish a savings or checking account, and also provide a written statement from a financial institution. So just a heads up, claim approval and payment notifications are still sent via email, and those are from reset@ihcda.in.gov. Okay. Agreement 12, unallowable expenses. So e-funds may not be applied to the following things: deposits, commercial accounts, garbage collection, water, sewer, cable, service or insurance plans, repayment of fraud or theft, setting an LP tank, or any expenses not directly related to residential energy consumption or delivery. EAP funds must provide continuing service. So a vendor may not accept EAP funds for a closed or inactive account and apply them to an outstanding amount owed unless the account will be restored. So just a caveat there. So this is kind of a new update. So overpayment and refund summary form. So now all vendors are required to use that while returning funds. Using those funds make it easy for vendors to provide the information required for the refunds. And they really assist our claims and fiscal staff in tracking and accounting for returned benefits and making sure those funds are applied to the correct grant. And that's, obviously going to reduce waste of public taxpayer funds. And then also speeds up benefit transfer when an applicant moves and has their benefit sent to a new utility or fuel provider. But here we got a copy of that. I believe Tom has put quite a bit of work in on this. And this is also going to be able to be found on our partner page. Okay, so some updates to the equal treatment section. The vendor shall not treat any household adversely because of EAP assistance. Adverse treatment includes charging additional fees, costs, or other charges on the basis of a household receiving EAP benefits. And then we've also updated that clause to require explicit participation in any investigation into violations. Pretty straightforward. Record keeping, agreement number 22. The vendor agrees to maintain an adequate accounting system to allow verification and auditing of the amount of service delivered to eligible households. This includes documentation that LIHEAP funds were not applied to unallowable costs and that refunds and overpayments were remitted to IHCDA rather than to the customer. Records must be maintained for a period of 3 years following the close of a program year. Okay, I know that was a lot, so let's take a break here. And let's take some questions if we have some. No, nothing? Any?
And just to clarify for everyone,
Log out of that.
Oh, sorry, looks like someone is unmuted. I was gonna say, if you use the raise hand function, we can definitely unmute you if you have a question.
So, Kristen.
Hi, I just have a quick question on the suspending disconnect for 14 days while the application is being processed. Will we be provided with a list of customers that have applied from our local EAP agencies?
That's a good question. So yes, that is they are required to give you that list. We kind of go into a little bit more nuance in the next section about moratorium protection. Yeah, Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, just that that is an expectation that we have communicated to our subgrantees, that they are in proactive communication with all of their utility vendor partners, but especially whenever they find an application that they become aware of that is scheduled for disconnection, we ask them to make that communication with you proactively with as much notice as possible so that you can place that hold there. And we are also trying to work with our software vendor to put that functionality into the vendor portal. And I think Henry will probably be talking about that a little bit later. Please do be aware that's still work in progress. But those of you who have been with us for a couple of years on this technology piece knows that we have made some progress there, and we hope to be able to roll out some new features this year.
One of the questions in the chat was, do we have a spreadsheet that would recommend tracking everything for future auditing? I think we actually might have lost Tom there. Oh, nope, there he is. Tom, did you catch that?
I did. That's weird because I was able to see you and hear you, but it sounds like you lost me. Do you have a tool like that, Henry?
I do not have a spreadsheet necessarily. Yeah. If you've gone through our vendor monitoring, again, we're going to go down later on in the PowerPoint. We're going to go over a little bit of the vendor monitoring, what's included in it. That might kind of give some ideas on what could be included. So I think I'll say that for now.
Yeah, and I think Henry, you and I can probably kind of compare notes at a later date and see if there's any tools that we can provide that would kind of be beneficial for the entire vendor network.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
good question.
Yeah, we don't have anything right now, but that's something that we can definitely look at in the future.
Great. Okay. All righty, let's move along. So let's get into moratorium a little bit. So there's been some changes to that. So the text read, the vendor may not during the heating season terminate service to the dwelling because of a failure of the customer to pay his energy or fuel bills until 14 days after it serves notice upon the customer of its intent to terminate service. So this would be outside of the moratorium range. So regardless, there can be no disconnects before March 15th. And what this does is it really gives your clients time to get assistance. So, and there's we're gonna kind of show some of the timelines here. There's always a delay coming from the LSP, as they're determining eligibility. So we want to extend protection where we can. So here's the actual code itself, part of the code itself. And you can see, that's through December 1st through March 15th of every year. It only applies to utility vendors who supply electricity or gas service that are municipally owned, privately owned, or co-op owned. So if you're a bulk vendor in the wrong training, then this wouldn't apply to you. Okay, so there are some scenarios where a moratorium would be, you can terminate during a moratorium. So upon request of the customer, if a condition is dangerous or hazardous, upon court order, if there's fraud detected or unauthorized usage, if any of the utilities regulating or measuring equipment has been tampered with, anything along those lines. So we really highly recommend, if any of these are going to occur, please let us know. Having us looped in on these situations early is a lot easier than us later sending messages wondering why, a moratorium's been, denied or terminated, I should say. So, yeah. So in order to make this successful, utility vendors and LSPs need to have good communication and foster productive partnerships. So LSPs should be contacting the vendor to extend moratorium protection prior to eligibility determination. So that means as soon as a client puts in an application. So, however, you guys are more likely to hear from the client themselves. And so what we really are asking is that you extend moratorium protection when you learn from a client that they have applied for assistance. So, trust the client and then verify later with the LSP. So LSPs have 10 business days to complete application processing for in-person appointments and 55 calendar days to complete application processing for other methods. So online, things like that. So you can see how there's a delay here. So LSP should notify the vendor when EAP eligibility has been determined so that a pledge can be entered or moratorium protection can be terminated. Vendors may contact the LSP to inquire about the status of an application that has been placed under moratorium protection while eligibility is being determined, especially if more than 10 days have elapsed since projected termination date. And some vendors extend this protection at the beginning of the EAP season. So the law does not require that, although we do appreciate, you working to protect your customers. So. Okay. So yeah, we were one of the things that we've been wondering is, what tools or resources you've been using in the past to make your moratorium successful, right? Is there anything that you've implemented to ensure success or ensure, applicants are being protected? These are the things like that we'd like to learn more about, that we would like to share and collaborate with everybody on. So if you have something, please let us know. So. So yeah, let's take questions on moratorium. So far, a lot less questions than the LSP training. So Amy asks, our co-op covers territory in both Indiana and Ohio. We have been advised we are not required to follow the PUCO policies. We do follow the moratorium timeframe, but not the strict guidelines. Your thoughts? Tom?
Hi, Amy. Can you clarify for me what PUCO stands for?
I believe it's the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio.
Perfect. Thank you. So my understanding is so co-ops typically do not fall under IURC, which is Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission of regulation, but the moratorium is separate from IURC regulation. The moratorium actually is enacted by the Indiana legislature. It's part of Indiana code. So my understanding is that as a utility provider operating within the state of Indiana, you would be subject to observe the moratorium provisions. But I can reach out to our legal department for further analysis and clarification on that.
Thanks. So Marquita asks, is there a way in the portal to see the applicants and status? That way we do not have to wait on the LSP to contact us. So currently that does not exist. That is something that we are working to implement. We're going to go into the vendor portal a little bit more later down the line. It's definitely something that needs to come along. So yeah, great question. So. Okay. Let's move on to the transmittal process. Okay, so transmittals are the official record of the benefit for which a client has been approved. If there is a discrepancy between the pledge received via LSP contact and the amount on the transmittal amount will be considered correct. Transmittals are not valid for payment until they are signed by both a representative of the LSP and a representative from the vendor. And any changes made to the transmittal need to be made prior to execution. So all SPs have now been instructed to ensure that transmittals are generated and sent on at least a weekly basis. So it is the vendor's responsibility to fully review the transmittal before signing it. So your review should ensure that the client is a customer, ensure that the name, address, account number are correct, make sure they're currently active, not scheduled for disconnect at the client's request. If there are any errors or any accounts that need to be removed, it's the vendor's responsibility to mark these changes directly onto the transmittal report and adjust the total amount, if necessary, before signing and returning the transmittal to the LSP. So vendors are required to return transmittals within 7 days. And the vendor must apply the benefit credit to the customer's account upon approval of the transmittal, not upon receipt of actual funds. So that is actually one of the agreements in the MOA. It's Agreement 9. Failure to review the transmittal and provide corrections is a violation. So just be aware. If an LSP discovers an error has been made in benefit or eligibility determination, the LSP may award the client additional funds or submit negative transmittal accompanied by an overpayment remittance. So the LSP may award additional funds at any time. The overpayment remittances must be submitted within 60 days of initial approval. And if an overpayment remittance is received more than 60 days following the initial approval, you may inform the LSP that the window to request overpayment remittance has lapsed. So when a vendor receives a negative transmittal, they're to follow the same transmittal procedure. So after returning the signed negative transmittal to LSP, the vendor will also sign the overpayment remittance, and the signed overpayment remittance is to be sent with a check to IHCDA to be reinvested in the program. And then we list a couple of the reasons why. Yeah. In order to keep payments on time and not negatively impact customers and clients, we're asking all vendors to return signed transmittals to LSPs within 1 week of receipt. So claim notification emails will note which transmittals have been approved for payment and the total of each transmittal. And then we ask that you please use those emails in conjunction with the transmittal reports for the purposes of correctly distributing funds and reconciling claims. So please remember that no LIHEAP funds are ever to be released back to the customer. All unused funds are to be sent back to IHCDA within 60 days of an account closing. Very important there. I know I went through that section a little quick, but if you have any questions on the transmittals.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
You said that when we get the transmittal and we review them and make sure they're all correct, we're supposed to give the customer credit at that time, not wait until it hits our bank?
That's correct.
Okay, because usually, before, we sent the transmittal back and we waited until we got word from accounting and then we posted the transmittal, so we're doing that wrong.
Tom, do you have any extra thoughts on that?
Yeah, so basically as long as somehow it is noted to the customer's account, so it's clear to the customer that they have this benefit, and as long as you can show that basically that any penalty is not assessed against the amount, any outstanding amount that's covered by a benefit, you're okay in theory to not actually credit the account fully, but it does need to be notated on the account somehow, and you need to ensure that if there are any penalties being assessed to the customer, that those penalties are not that the amount that's subject to a benefit is not subject to those penalties. So for instance, if someone has a $400 balance with you and they have a $250 benefit coming in, if they miss their next payment, you can assess a penalty on that $150 that's outstanding after the benefit, but not on that $250 that has a benefit incoming for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. We put payment assistance on our alerts, and we put how much the pledge was. So if the customer calls in and wants to know, we've got it right there. Now, we don't assess penalties during moratorium, but the rest of the year we do leave the penalty code on there. So we're doing that wrong then too.
Yeah. So the key is to ensure that that any penalties are the only amounts that are subject to any penalties are the amounts that are in excess of that pending benefit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to add that this transmittal process is one of the things we're actually working on right now that we're going to send out right before the season begins is working on a big graphic for it to make all this process clear and laid out. So we're promising that at least. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our vendor portal and vendor monitoring. So, yeah. For those that don't know, the vendor portal is now live and it allows all transmittals to be sent, edited, signed, returned, and monitored all online. So here's a little screenshot for you. We have had a mixed reception and utilization of this program. I'm actually not clear whether any training ever actually occurred on this. I think people who opted in were probably just did so, I'm not sure, by word of mouth, perhaps. So we really do actually encourage using this. The people who are using it really appreciate it. The LSPs really appreciate it. It makes their life a lot easier. You still get notifications via email. Yeah, so I did include a link on this. It's a different login than say going to just the EAP Connect website. So this is always a fresh link if you need it. It's also on our partner page. So we'll get into that a little bit. So you need to opt in for access. So please email me at vendors@ihca.in.gov and we can talk about that. We do have very limited training materials right now, but I've been fairly successful at helping people onboard into this. We've run into some various issues, but once people are in it, we seem to have some pretty good success. So highly encourage at least trying this. If you already have access and you're not receiving any of the transmittals, you may need to contact your LSP and let them know. One of the things that they need to like check a box essentially to make sure that you're getting them. So. Okay. Vendor monitoring. So vendor monitoring is a project that I've taken over that I've been working on for most of this year. This is a process that we're really building out and expanding. It's definitely a work in progress. So, but this is required for the LIHEAP program. So it allows us to improve processes, let us know where areas of confusion or where we can train on, things like that. So it is federally mandated, and then all vendors are subject to it. So this actually happens as a desktop review by me. I believe we get into it a little bit more here. So this is kind of what it looks like. You get a notification, you get 30 days. You have to submit the required documentation. You fill out a survey for us, and then after 30 days, we assess and then send a report back with recommendations. Maybe there's further questions. This is not really meant to punish anybody. It's certainly not been that way since I've been working on it. It's really just a way for us to build relationships and to learn about your processes, make any corrections that we may need to make, but also really just to learn what is working for people so that maybe we can share that. So some best practices for this, we highly recommend creating written processes to promote consistency and integrity. Then you can turn and just, send us those during the actual monitoring. All vendors should be performing internal quality assurance audits on EAP customer accounts anyway. All vendors should create a system to ensure that unallowable expenses are not being paid using EAP funds. All vendors should create a 3-year record retention and destruction policy for all EAP documentation. And then all vendors should strive to meet all reporting deadlines. This allows IHCDA to fulfill federal reporting requirements and make effective program changes. Okay. So I think we already got a couple vendor portal questions. So regarding the vendor portal, would it be possible to upload requested documents for clients that are requested by an LSP? Have we talked about that, Tom? Might have lost Tom again. Okay. So I'll try to answer that. That could possibly be an option in the future. We are currently, again, we're going to talk about this a little more at the end here. we're going to be talking about some possible upgrades to Eat Connect and to the vendor portal. And that can certainly be something that we talk about. And other question, are all the LSPs using the vendor portal? It's my understanding that they are all using it. Like I said, they do have to kind of opt you into it from their end. And so if you have an LSP that is not using it, please let us know, and then maybe we can do some coaching on our side. Okay, so a little more follow-up on the previous question. We consider the bill print as confidential and then have to send the bill copy by secure mail to the LSP. Yeah, that makes sense. So keeping it all online would be great for sure. So that is something that we can definitely bring up as we're talking about upgrades to the system. So. Okay. Field funds, special programs, and other resources. So some vendors have already established private funds or other programs to offer additional assistance. We encourage utility vendors to look for innovative ways to offer additional benefits or programs for their struggling customers. They can be developed independently or collaboration with LSPs or anybody else. These are the things that we would like to start hearing more about. We've begun going through all of our vendor partners' websites, looking for what kind of assistance is available, checking language, things like that. And so if you're working on something, we'd like to hear about it. And, maybe there's a way we can collaborate. Maybe there's a way we can assist. So please let us know. So these are some ideas after we were talking with so we just had the LSP training at the end of last month. And so, we try to get some ideas from them on what they would like to see happen. So these are just potential ideas. These are just, talking points that was brought up. So for example, the LSPs requested that that every vendor sends a copy of their payment arrangements or a copy of the bill to the LSP. And then and maybe even have a conversation about it and go over, what each section means, things like that. Another example would be to collect and send your LSP a list of at-risk homes before the season starts. So this is a way to avoid shutoffs. And we've actually seen and read kind of across the United States and some other meetings that this has been really successful. And again, just a way to keep the power on. So, and then obviously, hey, marketing through any local TV, radio, paper channels, partnering with your local LSP or partnering with us. These are the things that we'd like to help with more and more as things go on. Okay, so a little bit on 211. So 211 is for those that don't know, it's a free phone service. Everybody's welcome to and encouraged to encourage their clients to use 211. It doesn't just have EAP benefits, it has EAP resources, it has a ton of other resources as well. So if your clients are struggling, they can get access to a lot of assistance here. So, but they can now assist the client with starting an application over the phone. So it won't be a complete application. The client will still have to submit documentation, but it's a great way to get started. And then kind of, especially if there's like a technology barrier, doing it over the phone, great way. So we've had a lot of success with this year, and we anticipate a lot of growth as well. So just some quick do's and don'ts on it. 211 does not have access to the completed applications once they're submitted. So any and all questions that have to do with eligibility or status of application need to go to an LSP. So please train your your folk on making sure that those questions are not, that those clients are not just being referred back to 211 over and over again, that they're being sent to the LSP to get those questions, because chances are, you know, the LSP probably needs information, and chances are good those clients would probably give up after getting frustrated on one phone call to the wrong place. So 211 does not process any of the applications. They can only assist in filling them out, and then can only submit them to the LSP. Okay, so again, some more questions that we have, you know, what ideas do you have? What partnerships are you working on that we can share? Where can we assist? These are the things that we would like to work on more. Okay. Another thing that we encourage is having EAP information directly on your vendor websites. So it's a great way to share assistance for your clients and for your customers. But we do ask that you check that all of your sites contain up-to-date and accurate information. We've begun the process of going through and reviewing all of your websites, and we may have already actually begun reaching out about it as well. Not quite. Well, we haven't reached out about it yet, but you know, we will be asking, hey, can you update this information, make sure this is correct? So you might be hearing from us, but. So some more upgrades. We are updating all of our marketing, and they will be ready to go for program year 2024 and on our partner page. That website itself is also getting a facelift. That is not quite done yet. It will be done before the season, and you know, we'll send all this information out anyway. So when it's ready to go, you guys will see it. So. Okay. So just a little bit on contact protocols. So please make sure that no vendor ever sent, none of your people send clients to IHCDA, whether they're e-recipients or not. This could mean like our LIHEAP email, our vendor email, it could be Tom's email. Please train to not send them to us. Please send them to their appropriate LSP, because those are the people that can get them the answers and get them the assistance. So that's really what we wanted to push here. So it's really frustrating to be a client and to be struggling and be sent to the wrong place, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. So we created a handy little chart. I'm not going to go over this one by one, but if there are questions about who to talk to and when, it's right here. So. So with that said, we've created a new dedicated email to triage issues specifically for vendors. That's vendors@ihca.in.gov. Just a few of us are monitoring this. This was created specifically for vendor problems or communication in general. So you've probably seen some communication out of it. Just keep in mind that the fiscal department doesn't have access to this email. But you know, we're more than happy to kind of help you get where you're going. And you may still actually hear from Tom at the LIHEAP inbox. So. Before we move on to that, is there any questions about what we just went over?
There was a question in the chat that I answered that I just want to be sure that I address verbally, so it's part of the record, so everyone, you know, kind of hears the same thing. So Carly Nichols asked, where can we get information as to how our LSPs are reachable, as far as their actual in-person locations, hours available, etc. And so the answer I gave to Carly in the chat was, if you're having difficulty getting this information from an LSP with which you work, please reach out to us, let us know, and we can definitely help put them in touch with you so that they can communicate with you directly, and hopefully open that communication so that you can have more proactive communication moving forward.
Absolutely. And when these MOAs are complete, we're going to be collating all that information, all that contact information, and sharing it with the LSP so that they have updated contact information as well. So we're going to be trying sharing it, make sure we're sharing it from both sides. So. Yeah. Thanks everybody for attending this big training. If you have any questions or concerns, we're always available at the vendor's email. I put a link here to our EAP resources page. We will have copies of these slides. We will have the recording up probably once we get the website facelifted, so probably within a couple weeks. And then I also included another link to the vendor portal here. So I'm going to go over one quick little thing, and then on the last slide, we'll take any more questions that we have. So now, one of the projects that we're working on right now is working with the Transform Consulting Group. We're conducting stakeholder engagement and research to make upgrades to all of our technology. So all of our websites, vendor portal. So right now, what we have is a survey for the vendor portal itself. Now, if you've never used the vendor portal, we still encourage you to take this. But if you use the vendor portal, we also really encourage you to take this. It takes about 15 minutes. This will really give us a good idea of what you use it for, how you could use it better. And once we have those information, we can really put that in place. So I'm going to leave this screen up, and you can use your phone, take a photo of it right here, and follow that link. And then we'll actually take any questions that you have as well.
So Henry, just to again clarify, so it's on the record.
Yes.
So I know Pam McAllister asked in the chat, how can we get copies of the slides? I know that you mentioned that they would be on the partner website, and then in the slides there was a link to the partner website URL, but of course they don't have the slides to click on that link. So once that's updated, we will be sure to email out that link to everyone, and then all the resources will be available there.
Great point. Any other questions for us today? A lot less questions than the LSP training. So many less. Oh. Well, we really appreciate everybody coming and joining us today and learning alongside us. So we're looking forward to another big year, and just continue to try to expand. And at the end of the day, we're here to help your customers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for all of your hard work.
All right.
I am going to end the recording as long as no one else has anything to say.
Perfect.